FM. Twese hamwe birashoboka.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
This is Radio Imanzi, broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umugano. The headlines. Rwanda and the United States have said they will continue to back dialogue and peaceful means to resolve the long-standing conflict in the eastern DRC. Young girls from Kayonza district say that the projects they have initiated are changing their lives and the lives of their peers. The East African community have announced that it is satisfied with the manner in which the polls were conducted in Kenya. Welcome back. Now news in detail. Rwanda and the United States have said they will continue to back dialogue and peaceful means to resolve the long-standing conflicts in the eastern DRC. Hugo Felix has more on this report.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken and Rwanda's Foreign Minister U.S. Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Dr. Vincent Biruta addressed.
Please excuse us for that. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Dr. Vincent Biruta addressed a press conference which touched on a number of issues, including the conflict in DRC, the conviction of Paul Sabagina, and the United Nations group of experts report on DRC, among others. Minister Biruta on Paul Sabagina case said Rwanda will continue to abide by its laws and the decisions made by the judiciary and would request partners to respect Rwanda's sovereignty, laws and its institutions. We shall come back to that story. The central bank governor this afternoon briefed the media on the decisions from the Monetary Policy Committee on recent economic developments at global and national level and the next central bank rate.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Dr. Vincent Biruta addressed a press conference which touched on a number of issues, including the conflict in Rangonga said the Monetary Policy Committee analysis indicates that inflationary pressures remain high, mainly due to global supply challenges as well as a lower domestic agriculture output. He said globally, the relaxation of COVID-19 related restrictions and economic recovery support measures in place led to excess demand for commodities. Consequently, prices have been increasing for key commodities such as oil, gas and food. Performance in the agriculture sector declined in the first half of 2022, following unfavorable weather conditions and an increase in the prices of imported agricultural inputs. Governor Rwanda noted that inflation is expected to remain high over the next 3 quarters and start easing in the second half of 2023 when the headline inflation converts toward the 5% benchmark. In a view of these projections and building on the outcomes of the previous monetary policy decisions, the committee decided to increase the central bank rate by 100 basis points from 5 to 6%. Felix reports.
Thank you, Felix. Coming back to the first story, Rwanda and the United States have said they will continue to back dialogue and peaceful means to resolve the long-standing conflict in the eastern DRC.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Dr. Vincent Biruta addressed a press conference which touched on a number of issues including the conflict in DRC, the conviction of Paul Rusesabagina, and the United Nations group of experts report on DRC, among others. Minister Biruta on Paul Rusesabagina case said that Rwanda will continue to abide by its laws and decisions made by its judiciary, and would request its partners to respect Rwanda's sovereignty, laws, and its institutions.
As far as the government of Rwanda is concerned, Paul Rusesabagina is a Rwandan citizen, and he was arrested, he was tried, and convicted along with 20 other accomplices for serious crimes they committed against Rwandan citizens, and which he committed while residing in the United States. And this was done lawfully under both Rwandan and international laws. Therefore, Rwanda will continue to abide by our laws and the decisions made by our judiciary. And we would request our partners to respect Rwanda's sovereignty, Rwanda's laws, and its institutions. When Rwanda deals with people who commit crimes against our country and our people, we abide by laws, both national and international. We know some other countries have their own methods to deal with those kind of people, those criminals who commit crimes against their own countries. But as far as Rwanda is concerned, we do it in respect of our laws and in respect of international laws. Any other people could qualify these as international repression or whatever, but when we deal with people who commit crimes against our country, against our people, we abide by the laws, both national and international.
Secretary Blinken said that prior to addressing the media, he met with President Kagame, with whom he had respectful discussions, including the Paul Rusesabagina's case.
We have been clear about our concerns related to Paul Rusesabagina's trial and conviction, particularly the lack of fair trial guarantees. We continue to urge the government to address concerns about the legal protections afforded to him in this case and establish safeguards to prevent similar outcomes in the future. I had an opportunity to discuss this matter with President Kagame this morning. I'm not going to get into specifics, but we'll continue to engage on it. And I also had an opportunity just a few days ago to talk to Paul Rusesabagina's family, and we'll continue to be in contact with them as well.
On the security matter in DRC, Minister Biruta said the presence of FDLR and close collaboration with the army of DRC has always been the most significant cause of insecurity, and this enables FDLR to conduct terrorist operations on Rwandan territory, something the government of Rwanda cannot accept.
Rwanda is not the cause of long-standing instability in eastern DRC, where we have over 130 armed groups, including the M23. And the presence of the FDLR and the close collaboration with the army of the DRC has always been the most significant cause of insecurity. And this enables the FDLR to conduct terrorist operations on Rwandan territory, something government of Rwanda cannot accept. And Rwanda, we always reserve the right to take necessary measures to protect its integrity, its territorial integrity, its sovereignty, and to ensure the security of its people. This being said, Rwanda remains committed to the processes mandated by the African Union and the other regional organization, which we hope the United States will continue to support for all of us to bring lasting peace to Eastern DRC and to the entire region.
U.S. Secretary Blinken visited the Rwandan Genocide Memorial. In his message, he said that he is profoundly moved by this memorial and is inspired by the resilience of the survivors and the remarkable progress of this country. The USA strongly supports Rwanda's continued efforts toward renewal and reconciliation. Felix reports.
Rwanda's Minister of Trade and Industry has called on local agro-process manufacturers to take advantage of opportunities offered under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Yvette Rudasingwa has more with this report.
Jean Chrysostom Gabitsinze was addressing the East African Business Council consultative meeting between East African Community, South African Development Corporation and COMESA. The meeting comes after Rwanda was picked among countries set to start trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area framework. The participants at the meeting called for improvement communication for better collaboration. John Bosco Kalisa, the CEO of the East African Community Business Council, said the African Continental Free Trade Area offers a huge opportunity to all traders. The private sector and government should work together to address any bottlenecks. The landmark African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement signed in Kigali in March 2018 established a continental market of 1.2 billion people with a combined gross domestic product of more than $3.4 trillion. Yvette Rudasingwa, Radio Imanzi.
Thank you, Yvette. Moving on ahead, young girls from Kayonza district say that projects they have initiated are changing their lives and the lives of their peers. The girls launched 4 projects, including one to encourage dropouts to return to school, another to sew reusable sanitary pads, one to combat gender-based violence, and one to strengthen women's rights. They said they intend to show these projects to their peers from Gramagana and Bugesera districts in order for them to launch similar projects in their respective districts. Jean-Madi Habimana, director of the Ready for Reading organization, says that empowering young girls makes gender politics more understandable.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
Now the Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. The trading session recorded a turnover of 103,089,000 Rwandan francs worth of bonds traded in one deal on the fixed income market and 523,000 Rwandan francs from 2,900 shares traded in 4 deals on the equities market. Bank of Kigali closed the counter at 272 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a turnover of 299,200 Rwandan francs from 1,100 shares traded in 2 deals. I&M Bank closed the counter at 43 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded its turnover of 25,800 Rwandan francs from 600 shares traded in 1 deal. Bredwa closed the counter at 165 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a turnover of 198,000 Rwandan francs from 1,200 shares traded in 1 deal. Simergwa closed the counter at 120 Rwandan francs, MTN Rwanda at 177 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.5 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.7 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.43 and the selling price was 0.44. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.264 and the selling price was 0.269. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 and the selling price was 0.5. The US dollar buying price was 1,020 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,041 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,243 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,268 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,049 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,070 Rwandan francs.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
Moving on ahead with some items of international news, the East African community has announced that it is satisfied with the manner in which the polls in Kenya were conducted. The East African Community Observer Chair Jakaya Kikwete said the process reflected the will of the people. He said most polling stations opened on time. However, there is a need for the Electoral Commission to take corrective measures on those that opened late. He said security was professional and did not hinder people from exercising their mandate. Kikwete said the officials that conducted the elections did so professionally. He lauded the Electoral Commission for engaging young people in the election process. He said women were also engaged, urging Kenya to ensure the two-third gender role is realized. Addis Ababa has launched electricity production from the second turbine of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, doubling its power output to 540 megawatts. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed launched the facility even as Egypt protested pending resolution on the future safety and dispute resolutions from the use of the dam on the Blue Nile. The Premier said the dam is the historical project on which Ethiopians have invested their labor, money and knowledge. A historic drought in Somalia has now displaced 1 million people and left the country in the shadow of famine, according to the United Nations. More than 755,000 people have fled their homes but remain within the country's borders, which, then added to those who have fled abroad, brings to the total to 1 million. Somalia and its neighbors in the Horn of Africa, including Ethiopia and Kenya, are gripped by the worst drought in more than 40 years after 4 failed rainy seasons that have decimated crops and livestock. Sierra Leone Vice President has declared a nationwide curfew after hundreds of protesters took to the streets of the capital, Freetown, protesting inflation and the rising cost of living. At least 13 civilians have been killed so far following the violent protests in the country's capital. Videos on social media verified by Reuters showed large crowds of protesters and piles of burning tires in parts of the capital. Other footage showed a group of young men throwing rocks on a street filled with whitish smoke. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.